hum of fluorescent lights echoed through the sterile server room of Vane Corp, a towering glass monolith that pierced the city's skyline like a blade. Zara knelt on the cold tile floor, her hands gloved and steady as she wiped down the endless rows of humming machines. Beside her, her father, Marco, an aging janitor with calloused hands and a weary smile, mopped the aisles. At 22, Zara had inherited his quiet resilience, but hidden beneath her unassuming uniform was a mind like a steel trap, a photographic memory that captured every detail, every pattern, in vivid, unbreakable clarity. The door burst open with a sharp click. Alexander Vane strode in, his tailored suit cutting through the dim light like a shadow. The billionaire CEO, with his sharp jaw and piercing blue eyes, exuded an aura of untouchable power. He paused, his gaze landing on Zara and Marco, like they'd soiled his pristine domain. "What the hell are you doing in here?" Alexander's voice was ice, laced with contempt. "This isn't a playground for the help." Marco straightened, his mop dripping. "Sir, we're just cleaning as scheduled. We have clearance." "Clearance?" Alexander scoffed, stepping closer. His eyes narrowed on Zara, who met his stare without flinching. "You think mopping floors qualifies you for the heart of my empire? This is a $500 million automated system. Flawless. Efficient." He smirked, turning to Zara. "You girl, what's your name?" "Zara," she replied softly, her voice steady. "Zara, the janitor's daughter." He chuckled, but there was no humor in it. "I hear whispers you fancy yourself clever. Prove it. Find one flaw in the system by week's end. Succeed, and I'll make it worth your while. Fail, and you're both out." His team had leaked rumors of her quiet brilliance, overheard snippets from her father, but Alexander saw only her faded uniform, her lowly roots. It was a test designed to humiliate, to crush. Marco's face paled. "Sir, that's not fair." But as Zara helped her father gather their supplies, stress etched deeper into his lines. Suddenly, he clutched his chest, collapsing to the floor with a gasp. Zara's heart raced as she knelt beside him, calling for help. In that frantic moment, her eyes darted across the room, the wires, panels, blinking lights. Her mind snapped a perfect blueprint, every circuit etched forever. The hospital room smelled of antiseptic and despair. Eliza, Zara's younger sister, lay pale in the bed, her breath shallow. At 18, she needed a rare transplant, one their meager savings couldn't touch. Zara held her hand, the weight of the world pressing down. "Dad's stable," Zara whispered, forcing a smile. "Just exhaustion." Eliza's eyes fluttered open. "And you? You look like you haven't slept." Zara pulled out the crumpled note from Alexander, his cruel challenge scrawled in sharp ink. This could change everything. Alone now, she closed her eyes, summoning the server room's image. It unfolded in her mind like a digital map, cables snaking, data flows pulsing. But there, a faint anomaly, a hidden pathway threading through the core, invisible to casual eyes. It shouldn't exist. A compromise? Her pulse quickened. This wasn't just a flaw, it was sabotage. She paced the room. If I win this, Eliza gets the transplant. But if it's already hacked, the realization hit. The company's fate dangled by a thread, and she held the key. Monday dawned gray and unforgiving. Zara arrived at Vane Corp in her best thrift store blouse, faded but pressed. The executive floor buzzed with polished suits and sidelong glances. Alexander's team gathered in the conference room, Vivian at the forefront, sleek, blonde, and venomous. "Look what the gutter dragged in," Vivian sneered, her voice dripping honeyed poison. The room tittered. Alexander entered, his presence silencing them.
"Zara."
"You've accepted my challenge."
"Good."
"You'll work from that old terminal in the corner office. Dusty, forgotten. Fitting, don't you think?" Zara nodded, ignoring the jabs. As she settled in, Liam, her supervisor, a kind-eyed man in his 40s, approached quietly. "Don't let them get to you. You've got more grit than all of them." But unseen, Alexander had rigged a high-definition camera on her terminal, streaming to his private feed. Record her failure, he muttered to his assistant. We'll make an example of the janitor's daughter in the next memo. His prejudice blinded him. He couldn't fathom her succeeding. The terminal flickered to life, its outdated hum a stark contrast to the sleek systems upstairs. Zara dove in, her fingers flying. But data alone wasn't enough. She invoked the janitor's privilege, unrestricted access to overlooked spaces. Slipping into her uniform, she descended to the sublevels, badge-granting entry where executives feared to tread. Dusty vents and forgotten corridors revealed physical clues. Mismatched cables, tampered panels matching her mental blueprint. Her heart pounded as she traced the anomaly. In a shadowed alcove, voices echoed. Zara froze. Vivian's sharp tone. Accelerate the data bleed. The meeting soon. We can't risk exposure. A mysterious reply. It's set. Vane will crumble from within. Zara's breath caught. The threat was internal. Vivian? She backed away silently, evidence burning in her mind. But danger loomed. If caught, she'd be the scapegoat. 48 hours blurred into a haze. Zara's eyes burned, but her mind sharpened. Liam appeared with coffee. You haven't moved. What's driving you? My sister, Zara admitted. She needs help this job could provide. Liam nodded. Then fight. You're smarter than they know. Fueled, she cross-referenced millions of records manually, her photographic memory slicing through like a blade. The hidden pathway led to a shell company, Echelon Holdings. Shock rippled through her. It tied to Harlan Vane, Alexander's late father, a rival he'd crushed years ago. Revenge? She documented it all, her terminal glowing with proof. But as she stepped away to find Liam, a shadow fell. Returning, her screen was blank, files deleted, logs wiped. Vivian lounged nearby, smirking. Trouble with the system. Janitor girl? Accusations flew. Tampering, incompetence. Zara stood accused. Her evidence vanished. But in her mind, it lived on, indelible. The sterile conference room buzzed with accusation as Zara stood, hands clenched, facing Alexander Vane's cold scrutiny. The overhead screen displayed her terminal's blank interface, the damning proof of her failure. Vivian leaned back in her chair, her smirk a blade in Zara's chest. Tampering with company data is serious, Vivian purred, her voice laced with mock concern. What did you expect, playing with systems beyond your pay grade? Alexander's eyes, sharp as cut glass, bore into Zara. Explain yourself, he demanded, his tone clipped but carrying an undercurrent of curiosity, as if he sensed something deeper. Zara's heart pounded, but her voice held steady. The files were there. I traced a hidden pathway to Echelon Holdings, a shell company tied to your father's old rival. Someone deleted my work. Her gaze flicked to Vivian, who feigned shock. Lies from a desperate janitor's daughter. Vivian scoffed, earning chuckles from the room. You've got no proof. Alexander raised a hand, silencing the murmurs. Enough. Zara, you're suspended pending investigation. Leave your badge. His words were final, but as she handed over her badge, their fingers brushed and his eyes flickered. Doubt, perhaps, or something softer. As Zara exited, Liam caught her in the hall. They're setting you up, he whispered, his voice urgent. I saw Vivian near your terminal right before the wipe. The betrayal was clear. Someone inside Vane Corp was orchestrating a collapse, and Zara was their scapegoat. Alexander's office was a fortress of glass and steel, its floor-to-ceiling windows framing the city like a kingdom he ruled. Zara stood before him, her thrift-store jacket a stark contrast to the opulence. He leaned back, playing the security footage, her terminal's empty screen looping endlessly. You failed, he said, his voice low, almost regretful. I expected more from the whispers about you. Zara's eyes burned with defiance. You're blind, Mr. Vane. The flaw's real. It's bleeding your company dry, and someone's covering it up. He laughed, but it was hollow. Bold words for someone with nothing to show. He slid a severance check across his desk, $10,000, far more than standard. Take it. Go. Zara stared at the check, her mind racing. Why so much? Was it guilt? A test? She met his gaze, her voice soft but ironclad. You're making a mistake. You'll see it when it's too late. She took the check and left, but as the elevator doors closed, Alexander's stern facade cracked, his fingers lingering on the footage controls. He'd seen her focus, her unshakable calm. Something didn't add up. In her cramped apartment, Zara transformed the severance money into a lifeline. A second-hand laptop, a cheap router, and a stack of energy drinks turned her dining table into a command center. Eliza slept in the next room, her frail breathing a constant reminder of the stakes. Zara hacked into Vane Corp's public quarterly report using an old janitor's access code she'd memorized, a backdoor they'd never closed. Her photographic memory unfurled the server room's blueprint alongside the report's numbers. Line by line, she spotted it, a rhythmic anomaly in the financials, a time code embedded in the data flow. It wasn't random. It was deliberate, a signature of fraud pulsing like a heartbeat. Got you, she whispered, her screen glowing with the pattern. But the code's complexity hinted at a larger scheme. Whoever designed it was brilliant and ruthless. Zara's fingers hovered over the keyboard. This isn't just theft, she murmured. It's a takedown. Across town, Alexander sat alone in his penthouse office, the city's lights sprawling below. Vane Corp stock had plummeted after a leaked report exposed financial inconsistencies. His phone buzzed, an encrypted message from an unknown source. Asterisk the bleed is scheduled to finish at midnight. Check Echelon Holdings. Asterisk attached was a partial numeric sequence, cryptic, but eerily familiar. He tried tracing the message, but it was a dead end, routed through untraceable servers. Frustration gnawed at him. Echelon Holdings, he muttered, the name a ghost from his father's ruthless past. His mind flashed to Zara, her defiant eyes, her impossible claim about a hidden pathway. Had he misjudged her? He pulled up her file, her quiet brilliance documented in overlooked performance notes from Liam. Photographic memory, one read. His jaw tightened. The sequence in the message, it matched the rhythm of the financial anomalies he'd dismissed. Zara had been right, and he'd pushed her away. Rain streaked the windows of Zara's apartment building as Alexander's black SUV pulled up, an anomaly in the rundown neighborhood. He hesitated, pride warring with desperation, then knocked. Zara opened the door, her eyes wary, her laptop glowing behind her. Mr. Vane, she said coolly. Come to gloat. I was wrong, he admitted, his voice raw. The company's collapsing. I got a message, Echelon Holdings, a time code. You knew. Zara's expression softened, but her resolve held. I told you. Someone's draining your empire from the inside. He stepped closer, vulnerability breaking through his armor. Help me stop it, Zara. Name your price. She held his gaze, her voice steady. My sister's transplant. Fully funded. Tonight. Done, he said without hesitation. But we need to move now. Zara grabbed her laptop, revealing the full time code she'd decoded, a digital fingerprint of the sabotage. It's not just money, she said, her eyes blazing. It's revenge. And I know where to start. The screen displayed a single name, Echelon Holdings, tied to a rival Alexander's father destroyed decades ago. The trap was closing, and Zara held the key. The Vane Corp tower loomed like a sentinel in the night, its glass facade reflecting the city's restless pulse. Zara and Alexander stood side by side in the main server room, the air thick with tension. He disabled all security protocols, granting her full administrator access, a trust unprecedented in his guarded world. Zara's fingers danced across the terminal, her photographic memory reconstructing the sabotaged pathways she'd uncovered. Alexander watched, his usual arrogance replaced by a quiet awe. You're faster than my best engineers, he said, his voice low, almost reverent. Zara didn't look up. I see the system like a map. Every wire, every code, it's all in my head. Her tone was matter-of-fact, but her eyes burned with focus. The bleed's not just digital. It's tied to physical assets being siphoned off. Alexander leaned closer, his breath catching. Physical?
How?
She pointed to a discrepancy in the inventory logs. Shipments. Someone's moving hardware under the guise of routine maintenance. Her screen flickered, revealing a pattern of unauthorized transfers. We need to find where they're going. He nodded, a flicker of respect crossing his face. You're in charge, Zara. Tell me what to do. But as she typed, a notification pinged, an internal alert. Someone was accessing the system remotely right now. They know we're here, she whispered, her heart racing. The screen flashed red. System lockout initiated. Zara's pulse thundered as she bypassed the lockout, her fingers a blur. They're covering their tracks, she said, her voice tight. Alexander hovered, his presence grounding her despite their fraught history. Together, they traced the ghost account, a digital phantom siphoning millions through echelon holdings. But the deeper they dug, the clearer it became. The theft wasn't just data. Physical servers, proprietary tech, were being shipped out. Look at this, Zara said, pulling up a logistics report. Shipments every Tuesday, when the warehouse logs show. Maintenance downtime. It's too precise to be random. Alexander's jaw tightened. Vivian. She's been taking doctor's appointments every Tuesday for months. His voice dripped with betrayal. He'd trusted her, promoted her, and now she was dismantling his empire. Zara met his gaze, her eyes steady. We need to catch her in the act. Tonight's the last shipment before the company meeting. If we miss it, Vane Corp collapses. Alexander grabbed his phone, his voice sharp. I'm calling my pilot. We're going to that warehouse now. As they raced to the rooftop helipad, Zara's mind churned. Vivian wasn't just a thief. She was a predator, and they were running out of time. The helicopter's blades sliced through the night, the city a blur below. Zara clutched her laptop, the stolen shipment's coordinates burned into her memory. Alexander sat beside her, his face a mask of determination, but his hand brushed hers, a fleeting, grounding touch. You're risking everything for this, he said quietly. For my sister, Zara replied, her voice firm. And for the truth. They landed near a derelict warehouse on the city's edge, its rusted exterior hiding a high-tech operation. Creeping inside, they spotted Vivian directing workers loading crates onto a truck. Her voice was sharp, commanding. Hurry up. We're on a deadline. Zara's heart sank. She recognized the crates as Vane Corp's proprietary servers. Before they could act, Vivian turned, her eyes locking on Alexander. Her face twisted into a sneer. You're too late, she hissed, pulling a shock weapon from her coat. This company's done, and so are you. Alexander stepped forward, shielding Zara. Why, Vivian? What did I ever do to you? Her laugh was venomous. Not you. Your father. She aimed the weapon, her finger twitching on the trigger. Zara's mind raced, mapping the warehouse's layout from her janitorial days. As Vivian taunted, Zara slipped behind a stack of crates, her movements silent. Still playing the janitor, I see. Vivian sneered, her focus on Alexander. Using her knowledge of the space, Zara reached the warehouse's control box, a dusty panel she'd once cleaned. With a swift motion, she rerouted its power, plunging the warehouse into darkness. Chaos erupted. Zara tackled Vivian, wresting the shock weapon free and pinning her against a crate. Lights flickered back on as Alexander called security. Vivian struggled, her voice a snarl. Your father ruined my family, Alexander. He bankrupted my father, left us with nothing. This was justice. Zara held her down, her voice calm but cutting. You're not justice. You're greed. Security arrived, cuffing Vivian as she screamed, her confession echoing. You'll pay for what he did. Alexander stared, shaken. Zara met his gaze, her expression unyielding. It's not over. The system's still compromised. Back at the tower, dawn crept over the horizon. Alexander sat with Zara in his office, the weight of Vivian's words heavy between them. My father was ruthless, he admitted, his voice raw. He crushed rivals, left families broken. I thought I could outrun his shadow, but it's why I judged you. I was afraid of being him. Zara's eyes softened, seeing the boy beneath the CEO's armor. "You're not him," she said quietly, her hand brushing his. "You trusted me tonight. That's a start." He looked at her, vulnerability breaking through. "I don't deserve your forgiveness." But before she could respond, his phone buzzed, a hospital notification. Eliza's transfer to a top facility was complete, fully funded, as promised. Zara's breath caught, tears pricking her eyes. "You kept your word." "I'll always keep it," he said, his voice a vow. But as they stood, a new alert flashed on his screen. Asterisk Echelon Holdings reactivated. Secondary breach detected. Asterisk the fight wasn't over, and Zara was still the key. The hospital's sterile halls were a stark contrast to Vane Corp's gleaming tower, but for Zara, they held a fragile hope. Eliza's new room at the world-class facility was bright, filled with soft morning light. Machines hummed steadily, monitoring her sister's frail form. Zara sat by the bed, holding Eliza's hand, her heart swelling with relief. Alexander had kept his promise. Her sister's transplant was fully funded, a lifeline born from their midnight raid. Eliza stirred, her eyes fluttering open. "Zara?" Her voice was weak, but warm. "This place fits like a palace. Did your handsome prince bring us here?" Zara laughed, brushing a tear from her cheek. "Something like that." She glanced at Alexander, who stood quietly in the doorway, his usual sharp suit replaced by a softer demeanor. He nodded, a silent acknowledgement, and stepped out to give them privacy. Outside, he leaned against the wall, his mind churning. Zara's brilliance had saved his company from collapse, but Vivian's confession haunted him. His father's sins were a shadow he couldn't escape, and now a secondary breach loomed. He needed Zara more than ever. But could he ask her to stay in his world? The thought of her leaving tightened his chest. The Vane Corp boardroom buzzed with tension, its mahogany table surrounded by skeptical faces. Alexander stood at the head, announcing Zara's new role as chief systems strategist. Gasps rippled through the room. "A janitor's daughter?" One board member scoffed. "This is absurd." Zara stood tall, her thrift store blouse replaced by a sharp blazer Alexander had insisted she accept. Before objections could escalate, the board called for a vote to oust her. Smirk spread, old money dismissing new blood. Zara stepped forward, her voice calm but commanding. "Before you vote, let's discuss your records." Her photographic memory unfurled like a weapon. "Mr. Grayson, you sold 10,000 shares before the last earnings call, citing personal reasons. Mrs. Holt, your firm profited from a contract tied to Echelon Holdings. Shall I continue?" The room fell silent, faces paling. Alexander's lips twitched, a rare smile breaking through. "The vote's off," he declared. "Zara stays." As they adjourned, he caught her arm, his voice low. "You're unstoppable." But Zara's eyes were distant. The secondary breach nagged at her, a loose thread in her mental blueprint. Someone else was still pulling strings. The company gala glittered under chandeliers, Vane Corp's elite mingling in a sea of gowns and tuxedos. Zara, in a breathtaking emerald dress Alexander had gifted her, drew every eye. She moved with quiet grace, but her mind churned, analyzing the breach's new patterns. Alexander stood beside her, his presence protective yet charged with unspoken tension. As they danced, his hand warm on her waist, he leaned in. "You've changed everything, Zara. The company, me." His voice held a raw edge, but before she could respond, a figure approached, Harlan Vane's old rival, now a grizzled tycoon, his eyes gleaming with malice. "Enjoying your moment, Vane?" the man sneered. "Vivian's testimony hits the press tomorrow. Your father's sins, your company's collapse, it's all public." His gaze flicked to Zara. "And your little janitor won't save you." Alexander's face hardened. Later, alone on the balcony, he turned to Zara. "Take the Tokyo office lead. It's a promotion, a fresh start. You'll be safe from this storm." Zara's heart sank. "You're pushing me away to protect me?" Her voice trembled with hurt. "I'm not your pawn, Alexander." She turned, leaving him staring after her, the weight of his choice crushing him. Zara sat at her desk in the now familiar corner office, her belongings packed in a small box. The Tokyo offer stung, a gilded cage, not a partnership. She typed her resignation, her resolve firm. She'd saved Eliza, exposed Vivian, but she wouldn't be sidelined. Liam appeared, his kind eyes concerned. "You're leaving? After everything?" He handed her an unmarked thumb drive. "This came for you. No sender, but it's from the top." Zara plugged it in, her screen flickering to life with the unedited security footage from her first challenge. It showed Alexander at her terminal, his finger hovering over the record button, meant to humiliate her. But he'd paused, his face conflicted, and turned it off, again and again. Beneath his arrogance, he'd admired her from the start. Her breath caught. "He couldn't do it," she whispered. The footage was a confession, a glimpse of the man behind the mask. But did it change anything? She stood, thumb drive in hand, torn between hurt and hope. Dawn painted the city in hues of gold as Zara climbed to the Vane Corp tower's rooftop. Alexander stood there, alone, watching the sunrise. His shoulders sagged, the weight of his father's legacy and his own mistakes heavy. "You sent the footage," Zara said, holding up the thumb drive. He turned, his eyes raw. "I couldn't humiliate you. Even then, I saw you, really saw you. But I was too afraid of my own darkness to admit it." He stepped closer, voice breaking. "I love you, Zara. I sent you to Tokyo to keep you safe, but I need you here, with me." Zara's heart raced, the city sprawling below them. "I don't need protection, Alexander. I need a partner." She stepped forward, closing the distance, and kissed him, a fierce, equal claim. His arms wrapped around her, grounding them both. He pulled back, pressing a symbolic gift into her hand. Not a ring, but the administrator keycard from their first night in the server room. "The company's fate is yours," he whispered. "And so is my heart." Zara stood on the roof's edge, keycard in hand, the sunrise igniting her future. She wasn't just the janitor's daughter anymore. She was a force, rewriting the story of Vane Corp and her own. The end.